So the gods created Eve, and the archons, the chaos, they created Adam. Yes, and Eve have a child. All right, so let me leave that. So when they left, remember they left for 40 days and 40 nights. When Eve came back, no, there for 40 days and 40 nights. So Eve was sent, they sent Eve to the Garden of Eden. They sent Eve. Remember, Eve is all powerful because she's an angelic being. Eve is an angelic being, and Adam was just made. It's just all flesh and all that. And when Eve went down in the garden and saw Adam, poor Adam, no spirit in her, nothing in her. So Adam, she said to Adam, get up, Adam, and walk. And when Adam listened to her, she allowed the spirit to go in Adam. She allowed the spirit to go in Adam. So those who were watching Adam now in the Garden of Eden sent news to those people, to the archons, and they came back and be like, oh, so when they came back and saw Eve and Adam there, because Eve already know everything that's when it, because she's so divine. So Eve already know what they're gonna think. They're just thinking all kind of evil things, and now they're gonna be like, oh, let us catch her and put Adam to sleep, and then create her, let Adam wake up and think that we took the bone from Adam and put it into Eve, and Adam will rule over Eve for the rest of her lives. You see what that comes from? You see what those come from? So Eve, in her divinity now, you know what Eve did? Eve go into the tree of knowledge. Eve somehow put herself in the tree of knowledge. And when they went away to cook up their plan and all that, she put next to Adam, let me see how, someone that looked like her but wasn't her. Remember, she's the god, she's a god. So when they came and saw this lady next to Adam, they'd be like, oh my God, this is her, this is the god, this is the one who gave. They're happy. So the first thing they think, oh, we're gonna put our seed in her and she's gonna have babies. And let me tell you what those archons did to that likeness of Eve. Adam and Eve didn't have any child, according to the Nag Hammadi text. According to the Nag Hammadi text, Adam and Eve didn't have any children. So they let me say this, and then I'll say what the Gospel of Philip said. Okay, so they raped, we called it today rape. They put our seed into that lady and everything, and it seems like even Cain and Abel wasn't even Adam's children. It was the archons. It was the archons' children. It was the chaos children. It probably was the same, I don't know if the same people as the Nibiru, no, Anunnaki, as the Anunnaki. I'm putting all of them together. All right, so yeah, so Adam and Eve didn't have any children, so she bare Cain and Abel. And just to sidetrack, last week I was listening to the Gospel of Philip, and in the Gospel of Philip, he said that Cain and Abel was, father was the devil. He said Cain and Abel father was the devil, and I'm like, what? I can't put that together. Now I put it together. All right, so all right, Cain and Abel was the devil's children, and those that, and the archon's children, the chaos children, they weren't Adam's children, and they weren't Eve's children. But anyway, after that, they put them out in the outside, and they were out there, and they were enslaving them, and they were trying to let them think they're less than them, just like it's in a talk about the Anunnaki, just like with Enki and his brother. They were enslaving them, let them think that they're not good enough and all that. And listen, we're going to go into another thing I saw in the Gospel of Philip. Remember, in the Gospel of Philip, Philip said, in this world, they let us think that good is bad and bad is good, and we need to discern. All right. So, just like the Bible says, Adam was somewhere and Eve was somewhere, and the serpent came to Eve and tell him, listen, they can't be over you, they can't rule over you. This is the knowledge. The serpent is the knowledge, the tree of knowledge. And I told you that Eve went up into the tree of knowledge. All right. Form your own conclusion. So the serpent came to Eve and to the Eve lookalike and tell them, listen, they're not in you. You have the spirit in you. You have the source in you. They're not better than you. They're not better than you. So Adam and Eve, you know, they called, and when they went, they didn't see them, just like in the Bible. And let me tell you, all these ancient writings have some truth in them. All these ancient writings have some truth in them. And just like they were hiding in the garden. You know, they were hiding because they were naked, because they came into the knowledge of who they are and the truth about the existence. The serpent didn't lie. The serpent didn't lie. The serpent told them the truth about who they are. And so because of this, yes, they were mad. They put the sword at they threw them out of the garden. It's after they leave the garden, that's when they start having children. The Eve lookalike and Adam start having children, and they cast them out into the garden. And so they put a sword of fire because they became too knowledgeable. And it's the same thing today. When people are raising their vibration and their consciousness, it's not good for the enemy. It's not good for the archons that are still here and the chaotic beings that are still here, trying to tell us that that we're not who we are, that we are not this divine being. This is what the serpent coming into the garden and telling Adam and the Eve lookalike, listen. And they became, let me tell you, and what got me too, when their eyes were open and they understood what the serpent was saying, then they loved each other. They loved each other. And when they left the garden and they start having children, So this is the Nag Hammadi text about what really happened in the Garden of Eden. And yes, they were thrown out and they went and populated the earth, and Adam got so knowledgeable about everything. He named the animals just as the Bible says, and they were afraid of them. And the archons too, they were thrown out of the higher realms to the earth. They were thrown out. And listen, I noticed there in the Nag Hammadi text that our lifespan should have been 1,000, because they wanted to put so much curse on us because they found we don't want to be slave anymore. So my question is, what happened? Who is Eve children? Who are Eve children? Is it the serpent? Is it Christ? Listen, they don't need to need a partner to have children. They're androgynous. I hope I'm saying that right. They have both male and female characteristics. They have male and female characteristics. So, and they don't it's not like us in this physical realm. They could create whoever they want to create. So the Eve, or Eve's children, Is it Christ? Is it the serpent? And who are their ancestors here on earth? Is that the Holy Grail that they've been looking for all these years? The Eve gene? The Eve gene? I'm going to keep reading the Nag Hammadi's text and see if somehow, I only did 2 hours in, so, and see if somehow, I noticed they didn't want to go into it too, they kind of stopped. So if you're familiar with the Nag Hammadi text, please comment and let me hear if somehow they, I know they skip over it and just talked about how the archons was thrown out of heaven down here on earth, and the end of them is gonna go into the abyss at the end of this age. Okay, so the knowledge of this story is God is love. We are a divine source. We have a divine source that loves us. The God in the Bible, the way they portray the God in the Old Testament, it doesn't sound like my God or the God that I know. It sounds like the God of this earth, the archons, the Anunnaki, the chaos. Like, oh, there's no other God like me. God does no, there's no other God than me. Our God doesn't talk like that. He's all love. She's all love. All love. So if you want to understand who God is, go inside. And just like Adam and Eve, and the serpent came and tell them. I know some people think the Kundalini, raising your energy, is that serpent. Then when we have to come to the knowledge of who we are, just like how Adam and Eve did. Listen, as it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. Adam and Eve have to come into this knowledge that, listen, we don't need anybody to rule over us. We are, Adam and Eve were more even powerful than the Anunnaki, than the chaos, than the archons that's ruling us in this earth. They can only rule us because we're in darkness. They can only have control over us because we don't understand who we are. Listen, we get our soul from that divine source. We get our spirit from that divine spirit. When Christ said, I'm gonna go so that the Spirit, the Comforter, can come. Listen, we are divine beings. So if you hear this today, please comment. Let me hear what you think about this. I know it go against a lot of things that we hear, but this is the time of knowledge. Let's open our eyes. All right, be blessed, everyone.